The air, thick with the scent of fear, changed in an instant. One moment, the rhythmic sounds of daily life. The next, a deafening explosion shattered the night sky over Kigali. President Habyarimana's plane had fallen, and with it, any illusion of peace. Suddenly, neighbors who once shared meals turned their backs, then turned their hands. Roadblocks sprung up like deadly weeds, and a tiny plastic card, an identity card, became a death warrant. In just 100 days, up to 1 million lives were erased in one of the fastest genocides in history. How did an entire nation descend into such unimaginable horror, where compassion vanished overnight? This is the heartbreaking story of the Rwandan Genocide against the Tutsi. Welcome to Untold African Wars. Today we uncover the tragedy, the warnings ignored, and the enduring path to healing. For centuries, the peoples of Rwanda, primarily Hutu and Tutsi, lived side by side. Their languages, customs, and religions were largely the same. But then, the European colonial powers arrived, twisting identity into a weapon. Belgium, taking over from Germany, implemented a policy of divide and rule, initially favoring the Tutsi minority, creating a hierarchy that sowed deep resentment among the Hutu majority. This wasn't about intrinsic differences. It was about power, amplified by colonial decree. Identity cards were introduced, officially marking everyone as Hutu, Tutsi, or Twa, making these divisions concrete and inescapable. When Rwanda gained independence in 1962, the power dynamics violently flipped. A Hutu revolution in 1959 led to the exodus of many Tutsi, and subsequent Hutu-dominated governments entrenched this ethnic division. By 1990, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, or RPF, largely composed of Tutsi exiles from Uganda, invaded Rwanda, igniting a bitter civil war. After years of fighting, the Arusha Accords in 1993 offered a fragile promise of peace and a power-sharing government. But beneath this veneer of hope, a sinister plan was brewing. Extremist elements within the Hutu government, alongside radical Hutu Power ideologues, systematically built a machinery of hatred. They armed and trained a youth militia called the Interahamwe, compiling lists of Tutsi and moderate Hutu targets. The radio station, Radio Télévision Libre de Mille Collines, or RTLM, became a loudspeaker for hate, broadcasting venomous propaganda, dehumanizing Tutsi as cockroaches, and urging Hutu to cut down the tall trees. The air was thick with incitement, preparing the ground for mass murder. Then on the evening of April 6, 1994, the unthinkable happened. President Juvenal Habyarimana's plane was shot down as it approached Kigali airport, killing him and the Burundian president. Within hours, Hutu extremists blamed the RPF and the Tutsi, sparking the immediate and brutal launch of the genocide. It wasn't random violence. It was a targeted, systematic extermination of the Tutsi minority, who made up about 14% of the population, alongside moderate Hutu who dared to stand against the tide. The scale of loss is almost impossible to grasp. Estimates range from 500,000 to over 800,000 people killed. Up to 70% of the entire Tutsi population was wiped out in just 3 months. The genocide unfolded in horrifying phases, each more devastating than the last. From April 6 to 9, 1994, the immediate aftermath was chaos designed to be lethal. Within hours of the plane crash, presidential guards and Interahamwe militia set up roadblocks across Kigali. Prime Minister Agatha Uwilingiyimana, a moderate Hutu who was meant to take control, was brutally murdered along with 10 Belgian UN peacekeepers guarding her. This act was strategic, neutralizing political opposition and forcing the withdrawal of the Belgian contingent from the UN peacekeeping mission, UNAMIR. Key moderate Hutu politicians and human rights activists were systematically hunted down and assassinated. The message was clear: no one was safe. By April 10 through late April, the genocide escalated nationwide. The hate radio, RTLM, became the orchestrator, broadcasting lists of targets, directing Interahamwe militias and even ordinary civilians to participate in the killings. Massacres erupted with terrifying speed. Churches, often seen as sanctuaries, became death traps. Thousands sought refuge in places like Nyamata and Interahamwe churches, only to be slaughtered en masse. The weapons were crude but effective: machetes, clubs, hoes, knives. This was not distant warfare. It was neighbor against neighbor, often with chilling familiarity. Imagine Alice, a young mother, hiding in a small closet, hearing her own family's screams just outside the door, the familiar voices of people she knew well, now calling for their blood. She survived, but the sound of her child's last cry would haunt her forever. Throughout May and June, the horror reached its peak. Systematic killings continued across every prefecture, every village. People hid in the most desperate places, under beds, in ceilings, submerged in swamps, often for days without food or water, their survival a constant gamble against patrols. Yet amidst this darkness, flickers of humanity shone through. There were moderate Hutu who risked everything, hiding Tutsi families in their homes, or smuggling them to relative safety. Their courage was a profound counterpoint to the widespread brutality. While the genocide raged, the RPF, under the leadership of Paul Kagame, slowly but steadily advanced from the north. Their push created some safe zones, offering a glimmer of hope, but also led to intense fighting, further compounding the chaos. During these critical months, April to June, the international community's response was characterized by agonizing inaction. General Romeo Dallaire, commander of the UNAMIR forces, had sent desperate warnings to the UN Security Council months before, detailing the impending genocide, even requesting additional troops to seize weapons caches. His pleas were ignored. Instead of reinforcement, UNAMIR was drastically reduced from 2,500 to a mere 270 troops. Belgium's withdrawal dealt a crushing blow to the mission's morale and capabilities. Ceasefires were proposed, but never held. The world, it seemed, turned away, bogged down in semantics, debating whether the killings constituted genocide, thereby avoiding the legal obligation to intervene. Finally, by July 1994, the end was in sight, driven by the RPF's relentless advance. On July 4th, the RPF captured Kigali, effectively ending the genocide. By mid-July, they had secured most of the country. But victory brought a new crisis, a massive exodus of Hutu, many fearing retribution, others forced to flee by extremist leaders, pouring into refugee camps in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. One survivor, a young boy named Jean-Pierre, recounted how he was hidden by his Hutu neighbors for weeks, risking their lives until the RPF arrived. He often wonders what made them different, why they chose kindness when so many chose cruelty. The international community's role in this tragedy remains a painful point of reflection. France, a longtime supporter of President Habyarimana's government, launched Operation Turquoise in June, ostensibly to create a safe zone. While it did save lives, critics argue it also allowed many perpetrators to escape justice by providing a safe corridor to Zaire. Belgium's troop pullout was a crucial setback. The United States and the United Nations hesitated, avoiding the term genocide for too long, delaying any robust intervention. This collective failure had devastating consequences, leaving hundreds of thousands to die. In the aftermath, Rwanda was shattered. The RPF formed a new government led by Paul Kagame, but the scars ran deep. The refugee crisis in Zaire, coupled with the pursuit of perpetrators, fueled what would become the First and Second Congo Wars, destabilizing the entire Great Lakes region for decades. Justice, though slow, began. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, or ICTR, was established in Arusha, Tanzania, to prosecute those responsible for the genocide. But with so many perpetrators, a different approach was needed for the majority. Rwanda turned to a unique form of justice, the Gacaca community courts. These traditional courts allowed communities to try suspected perpetrators, focusing on truth-telling, confession, and often, reconciliation within the community itself. It was an arduous path, aiming not just for punishment but for healing and rebuilding the social fabric. Rwanda embarked on an ambitious, often challenging journey of national unity and reconciliation. The government actively promotes the idea that we are all Rwandans, striving to erase the ethnic labels that were weaponized. Memorial sites across the country, like the one in Kigali, stand as solemn reminders, ensuring that the victims are never forgotten and the lessons learned are never ignored. Yet debates on justice, memory, and the true extent of reconciliation continue, a testament to the genocide's enduring complexity. The Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi stands as a stark reminder of humanity's darkest capacities, the dangers of propaganda, unchecked ethnic division, and the catastrophic failure of the international community to act. But it also highlights the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit, the courage of individuals who defied the tide of hate, and Rwanda's remarkable journey towards recovery. General Romeo Dallaire, haunted by what he witnessed, often says, The price of peace is eternal vigilance. From 100 days of unimaginable darkness came a nation's fragile hope, a reminder that humanity can rebuild, but only if we remember. If this story touched you, like and subscribe to Untold African Wars for more untold African histories. Next, Congo Wars, Liberia, or another.